Hey guys! I'm making my first Harley Quinn cosplay. I wasn't really interested in cosplaying Harley Quinn until I saw these teaser photos from the second Joker movie with Lady Gaga, and I was just in awe of this blazer that she wore in these photos, and this whole outfit was just really interesting with the Harley Quinn diamond design. So I'm really excited to recreate it. Dragon Con is in less than 3 weeks, so I'm in a little bit of a crunch here. Let's hope I can get it done. For the blazer, I wanted to do like a cotton sateen, which I didn't find, but Joann's had the micro suede, but the wrong side was facing out, which looked and felt just like a sateen, so I had to get it. It's got a beautiful sheen to it, the color is rich, it's just perfect for what I want. So sometimes it's okay to use the wrong side of the fabric. For the fabric manipulation, I start by mapping out the diamond design on the fabric using a straight edge and chalk. Having a template helped me keep all the shapes and angles consistent as I drew the design. Alright, I'm a little nervous. Let's get started. Just take it slow, keep it close to the edge, keep it as straight as possible. Since I am sewing along the bias, it is going to stretch and warp and cause me all sorts of issues. Just gotta go slow. That looks really nice. Let's see. Can you see that? Really close to the edge, super tiny stitches. This is going to take 10 years. And I have 2 weeks. It took a couple hours just to sew the tucks all going in the same direction. Now I have to sew in the other direction to complete the diamond pattern. After a few more hours of sewing, this is how it looks. I broke out the steamer and steamed it from behind to knock out the wrinkles. Using an iron would press the tucks down to one side, which I was trying to avoid. You can already tell the difference from the left half to the steamed right side. I got to work laying out my pattern pieces for the blazer and cut them out. Okay, all of the shell pieces are cut out. Now I got to sew them all together. After sewing them together, I carefully pressed open the seams and notched any curves to help the seam allowance lay nicely. After assembling the sleeves, I sewed a gathering stitch along the sleeve cap to help when setting it into the armhole. You want it to have a nice round shape like this. So I got my lining pieces mostly sewed together. I do have my sleeves ready to go in. I do have to attach the front facing pieces, which are the self fabric, and they are interfaced. And then I also have the top collar and the bottom collar, under collar, top collar, whatever. I sewed the front facings to the lining and pressed it nice and flat, slashing along the curves. Okay, I went ahead and sewed my top collar and bottom collar together, and I did an understitch towards the under collar, and it's ready to move forward. This is how it looks with the under collar sewn to the shell. Now I need to attach the lining to the top collar and sew the front facings to the center front of the blazer to create the lapels. I sew an understitch from the hem to the lapel break, with the understitch going towards the lining. When I hit the break, I push the seam allowance towards the outside fabric so the understitch won't be seen when the lapel folds outward. Then I sew the top collar to the lining. Here's how it looks with the lining attached at the collar and lapel. Now I just need to hand stitch the shoulder pads to the seam allowance. Now it's time to make these bell sleeves. I did a gather stitch on some chiffon and pinned it to my pressing ham. This gave me random pleats that I pressed with the iron. It looks better when it's uneven and random. Then I attached it to the blazer by sandwiching it between the shell and the lining. After hand stitching the lining closed at the hem, all I had to do was install a hook and eye closure just below the lapel break, and it's done! Now moving on to the bodice. It looks like a knit fabric since I can't see any seam lines, but all I could find with the right size diamond pattern was this matte polyester satin. Since I'm using a woven fabric, I decided to use a bustier pattern. I tried to match up the diamond pattern along the seams the best I could as I was cutting it out. Alright, so I went ahead and interfaced all of my corset pieces. I just gotta sew them together. I added boning to the lining so I wouldn't have any stitch lines on the outside of the bodice. Okay, so I have my lining boned and ready to be attached to the outside. Here we go. First, I had to gather some tulle for the trim along the front of the bodice and sewed it between the lining and the shell. Then I made the pleats for the peplum part of the bodice. I added loops to the center back for the lacing of the corset. And that's it for the bodice. I got my wig all styled, so let's see how it looks all together. I'm super excited to see this movie next month. I'm interested in seeing how Lady Gaga portrays Harley Quinn with her character development, and I'm really interested also in seeing the context of when this outfit is worn, especially since it was in the trailer for literally 2 seconds. Of course, I had to get a little snack in character. There's not anywhere to sit at these cons. At Dragon Con, we saw some amazing cosplays. I loved looking at the cosplay showcase. Harley would definitely wear this to a masquerade ball. I loved these 1830s inspired looks for Catwoman, Harley Quinn, and Poison Ivy. Super creative. Here's more info on these looks. And this Dior Poison Ivy dress, stunning. I loved looking at all of the outfits close up and the stories behind these outfits. Thanks for following along for my first Dragon Con cosplay. I hope you stick around. See you next time. Stay crazy.